Welcome to another edition of Dogger Pass Podcast. This for UFC Vegas 44, Font versus Aldo. I'm Paul Shaughnessy, joined by the power of Zoom by Cody Saftic, coming off of a little 1 week hiatus. How was your week off there, Code?
Yeah, not good. I screwed up. Supposed to be a week off, and I love the week off. But then I end up saying, you know what? This triad combat thing looks pretty appealing, so I'm going to have a look. Mike Perry came through. That was good times. And then beyond that, there's a huge Bellator card on the Friday, and there's 15 fights in this UFC Saturday, which I hadn't really realized. So I should have used some of that downtime just to catch up on a couple fights instead of trying to cram them all at once. But what I can say, Paul, is coming back onto this excellent episode. Great show this week, like good-looking card, but Dog City, brother. You can make a strong, compelling argument for every single one of these underdogs. So this is going to be a fun one to jump back into, and hopefully we can make it a profitable one because if you get the right set of combination of dogs on this card, you are making money.
I mean, there's your boy Chris Curtis, who we'll talk about a little bit further down the card. And I don't necessarily even think he's one of the dogs that you're talking about. I'm going to be listening to you on it, obviously, because you're the Chris Curtis whisperer. But no, that was my initial take from this card. It's like, I can make a lot of arguments for a lot of these underdogs. But let's just get right into it. Main event, we've got Rob Font taking on Jose Jr. Aldo. Font is a minus 145 favorite. Aldo can be had for plus 125. Aldo, I mean, people probably have left this guy for dead after losing to Volkanovski, Marlon Moraes, and Peter Yan. And then he pops back up and, you know, at least has winning performances, especially the one against Pedro Munoz, where he landed a lot more significant strikes than I think we're accustomed to seeing Jose Aldo have in terms of output in a fight. But he gets back on track. He's right back in the, you know, that top 5 circle. Winner of this fight, you could probably make an argument if bantamweight's title picture wasn't so cloudy right now, that one of these guys is going to fight Peter Yan for the strap. But obviously, Aljamain's got to step in there first if he does step in. But I think if it comes down to 5 rounds, if Aldo doesn't land like a liver shot, something really damaging, doesn't really attack those leg kicks early on, I think he just gets out volumed over the course of 5 rounds. So I think Font is the rightful favorite in this spot. I don't think minus 145 is all that bad. Give me Font. What about you?
Yeah, this one's got me bugged, to be honest with you. I think when it first gets announced, the idea is, oh yeah, Font, big long jab, you know, better volume. Okay, stick to the outside. But Jesus, if Jose Aldo is on a career resurgence right now, he certainly looked at the last time out against Pedro Munoz, and I made a big mistake in taking Pedro Munoz, and I believed all the exact same things you're saying right now. He's going to have the volume game over Jose Aldo. I honestly thought that Pedro Munoz would be the one inflicting the leg kicks. And when you look at the numbers and you watch Pedro Munoz fights, this guy's in your face the entire time, yet he was completely rendered neutralized by Jose Aldo, who honestly did look career best. Now I think to myself, well, why am I in particular? Because you're right, it's not just me, it's a lot of people, but why are we so harsh on Jose Aldo? And you talk about those big losses, but Alexander Volkanovski, you mean the greatest featherweight to ever do the damn thing? Okay, interesting. Who else? Like, oh, Peter Yan? You mean the best bantamweight to ever do the damn thing? Okay, interesting. And he looked very, very good against Peter Yan, you know, until eventually he tired out. And you're right, volume did eventually take over. But I think you're talking about he's fighting some of the greatest guys to ever walk the planet. And while he's competitive with them, he can't really get over that bump. Rob Font, meanwhile, Rob Font's been beneficiary of fighting some guys with good names, but may have otherwise been over the hill. Marlon Moraes, well, we know he's over the hill. Cody Garbrandt, don't really want to go into that, but not like the biggest quality win. In fact, you beat him up for 25 minutes, couldn't knock him out? Interesting that you couldn't knock him out. His other knockouts are Marlon Moraes, who's also chinny, Thomas Almeida, who's chinny, Matt Schnell, who is chinny. So he's going to have to beat on Jose for the 25 minutes. And I agree. I keep coming back to volume. You got to volume this guy. When you look at the fight with Cody Garbrandt, he lands 176 significant strikes. That's huge. Aldo ain't landing that. But there's something to be said for power over the volume. And what Font does a lot is jab. He just sticks the jab out. He's got a big, long, accurate jab. And that worked awesome against Cody Garbrandt, who you've now seen go down to 125 pounds. Aldo's a big guy. Used to be the king at 45. Solid at 135. A great counter to the jab would be the leg kick. Aldo doesn't really throw a ton of leg kicks anymore. But again, if he stands his ground, he's going to have the bigger firepower. And in a close fight in Las Vegas, I could see it getting nudged towards Jose Aldo. He is the underdog. I think that the line is accurate. Slight favorite Rob Font, but God, I'm tempted to maybe take an underdog shot here. I faded Aldo in the past. It's worked out for me sometimes. It hasn't last time. But the last time in particular, the Pedro Munoz fight, man, I had to eat crow in that. He looked awesome. If he comes out, similar version of that, I think he can win this fight. If he comes out and he takes the first round off and he's not a fourth and fifth round guy, he's never really been a fourth and fifth round guy, then yeah, maybe Fawn over the course of 5 rounds edges him out at 48-47. But as of right now, I think I'm going to go slight edge towards the underdog Jose Aldo. We'll see if anything changes, but this is Dog City, and there's might be an underdog in the main event here.
I would just be worried about if Rob Font's able to put up 176 strikes like he did against Garbrandt, against Aldo. It's I just don't think Aldo can keep that pace. I mean, I guess he did put up like 114 in 3 rounds against your boy Pedro Munoz. Anyway, we move on. Obviously,
sorry, just real quick. But Cody Garbrandt has a 65-inch reach, right? So he's giving up 6 inches of reach to Rob Font. That was the story of the fight. Jose Aldo has a 70-inch reach. That jab's not going to be nearly as effective. He's going to have to stand closer to him, stand in the center of the cage. Also, like, wrestling Jose has been a path, like tire him out, take him down a little bit, grind him. Font doesn't have that. Font's going to have to beat. Whereas you saw Jose Aldo when he took on Chito Vera, it was like, whoops, I'm on your back. Oh, turns out he's got a BJJ black belt as well. So those variables for an underdog, shit. But yeah, again, we could argue this one for the entire 2 hours of this show, or we can move on. Unfortunately, we're going to have to move on, but I love it. This is good time.
It's a great fight, and I don't think we have to argue it because it doesn't sound like really either one of us are like overly confident in either side. But I like Font, you like Aldo. We move on to Rafael Fiziev taking on Brad Riddell, minus 120, slight favorite to Rafael Fiziev. Brad Riddell can be had for plus 100. Who you got here, bud?
Got to go with my guy, Brad Riddell, for sure. And when we're talking about volume over power, I think that's a great example in Rafael Fiziev's last fight. His name's probably Rafael. I don't know why I call him Rafael. He's not Brazilian. Rafael Fiziev's last fight against Bobby Green, he gets outstruck 143-104. Most notably, he got outstruck 32-25 in the first, 45-36 in the second, and 66-43 in the third. Yet, almost universally, everybody had Rafael Fiziev winning that fight the first 2 rounds, losing the third round to Bobby Green. So how does a guy get outstruck in all 3 rounds, but then clearly win 2 of the 3 rounds? Geez, those power body kicks, Paul. It was the power, it was the impact. That's what I'm hoping to get out of Jose Aldo over Rob Font in the main event. That's what I'm hoping not to get out of this Brad Riddell fight. I think similar to the argument in the main event, Brad Riddell is going to have the volume over Rafael Fiziev. I mean, this guy is just so tight. He's very, very technical. I like everything that Brad Riddell has been doing lately. And I think there's just been a real good resurgence. Not a resurgence, but this entire guys out of New Zealand, Israel Adesanya himself, they've been making a lot of improvements. They've been getting a lot more comfortable. But Riddell, to me, has always been a real clean, precise kickboxer. It's the element of his takedown defense needs some improvement for him to get to elite. Now that you're seeing that his takedown defense has improved a lot, A, and B, they're not really giving him takedown guys anymore. They're giving him strikers. You're going to see him be able to shine. So we took that underdog shot on him against Drew Dober. He was, I believe, like a plus 130 underdog, plus 140 underdog. A lot of people had Drew Dober because of the superior firepower. But again, when you look at the technicality, the fluidity, just the accuracy of Brad Riddell, he's a smooth operator, and there's a lot to like about what he does in there. He took Drew Dober's best shots in the first round. He was incredibly rocked in that first round. I was looking like an idiot in that first round. But you see the guy persevere every time. He rocks Drew Dober right back. It ended up being a dogfight, and you saw that the longer this thing went, Drew Dober trains at altitude. Drew Dober's got a cast iron chin. Drew Dober's got all these intangibles that make a good fighter, a great fighter. And Brad Riddell chops him up.
He can't stop the takedown, though, and he started mixing in the takedowns, and that was a big changing of the pace of the fight for Brad Riddell.
Yeah, for sure. And when I look at Rafael Fiziev, he is a purist in the kickboxing world, right? Both guys have spent time together at Tiger Muay Thai over in Thailand, where Rafael Fiziev was one of the coaches. Brad Riddell, coming from New Zealand, would spend some time there. So when you take on a tricky fighter for the first time, like he does a Saenchai lean back, right? With the fadeaway. Whoa, man, I've never seen this before, right? Some of his moves, some of his setups, you'd never see it before. So how do you prepare for it? The advantage for Brad Riddell is that he has seen this setup. He knows this guy. He knows a little bit of that trickiness. So I think he's going to be able to go out there and kind of dissect him a little bit. Now, when I think about Rafael Fiziev, geez, that Bobby Green fight, A, he did get outstruck in all 3 rounds. B, by the 3rd round, Paul, he was cooked. Now, call it he's throwing power shots. Yeah, maybe that was it. He was throwing some power shots. Boy, oh boy. But he got tired. And once he got tired, that's when you saw Bobby Green take over. Not that Bobby wasn't having success throughout the course of the fight. To me, Brad Riddell is a better striker than Bobby Green. He's going to have that cardio, same advantage. The 3rd round should be Brad Riddell's. He needs to split the first 2 rounds, 1-1 worst case. We can make it 1-1 going into the 3rd. We've got this fight. We're down 2-0 going into the 3rd. I don't know that Brad Riddell's got the gun power to punch out Fiziev in the last round. But if he can just keep this competitive through 2 and take it into the 3rd, he's going to win that 3rd round. So I got to go with Brad Riddell again here. I mean, he's not failed me so far. He's been, one of these guys ever since he's come to the UFC. I've backed him in every single fight, and I think he's, what is he, currently 4-0 in the UFC? But you see a progression. The Jamie Malarkey fight is actually pretty competitive. The Magomed Mustafa fight, geez, he got taken down 6 times, but he kept getting back up. The Alex De Silva fight, he did get taken down, but he looked a lot more comfortable. And then the Drew Dober fight, that was his masterpiece. Meanwhile, he had a scheduled fight with Gregor Gillespie that unfortunately got pulled off. But you want to talk about he's fighting wrestlers and giving up takedowns, and he's signing on the dotted line to take on Gregor? Crazy. Now you got a guy like Drew Dober, a purist striker. You show off some of the best. He just keeps getting better. Keeps getting better. He's only 30 years old. I like what I see. Fiziev, it's not that he's not getting better. I said I don't really see him getting all that better. He's a badass. He's a total badass. He's a power striking badass. There's ways to figure him out. There's ways to frustrate him. Once he gets frustrated, I think his game will fall apart a little bit. So this is another close competitive fight. It could be fight of the night very easily. You might even go ahead and say it's the people's main event, but this is a dog or pass. Brad Riddell, they're giving you slight underdog status on him. I'm going to take him.
I mean, if you're Brad Riddell, maybe push this fight up against the cage a little bit. Make it a little greasy in round 1. Slow down Fiziev, those the explosive strikes and so on and so forth. Like, put in some time early on in the fight to kind of slow down the pace a little bit. The fans may not like it, but you're in the Apex. There's only like 20. There's only 20 people there. You can't. There's nobody. Yeah. Nobody's man enough to boo in the Apex, because those guys can hear you, they can see you, and they'll see you in the parking lot out back. Right. All right, fair. Moving on down, we got Leonardo Santos taking on Clay Guida, -180 Santos, +155 Guida. I mean, Santos just absolutely I mean, the guy's supposed to be a legitimate black belt, right? And it's finally, when he was able to, he was finally able to get to the fight to the ground against Grant Dawson in round 3. And obviously got finished with the hammer fist, right as the bell was about to go off. But the fact that he wasn't engaging, trying to go for takedowns constantly was very, very, very frustrating. I think I was a Santos better. I was Santos by sub, I think, was something stupid. And he didn't even necessarily get close, but the path to winning this fight, obviously, he's got all the intangibles are on his side. He's got 5-inch reach advantage. He's way taller, he's just way bigger than Clay Guida. Clay Guida, a former 145-pounder. And if he gets this fight to the mat, I mean, the best way to beat Clay Guida is to submit him. It's happened time and time again. I don't expect him to get all that much better on the mat, but trusting Leonardo Santos to get that takedown, or does he even have the skill to track Clay Guida down, corner him, and get him to the mat? That's where the real problem persists here, because I see Leonardo Santos is +375 at DraftKings Sportsbook to win by sub, which seems ludicrous, but you have to trust in him to get the takedown. Clay's got this ability in all of these close fights of just, the judges love what they see. I don't know if it's the flowing mane, bouncing, there's something about it, but every one of his fights is just, he's still getting, against Madsen, I didn't really think it was even remotely close to being a split, but one of the judges favored it on his side. He gets close rounds in a lot of judges' scorecards. So if this ends up being on the feet, Santos doesn't really throw more than 50 significant strikes in any given fight. It could get real greasy. Pick is Santos. I mean, if I knew Santos was going to attack the wrestling and try to get this fight to the mat, I would be a lot more aggressive with the play. But I'm interested in Santos by sub, which is like, yeah, plus 375, as I said earlier. But I just can't trust this guy to get the fight to the mat. So minus 180, I think I'm just straight up passing.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. Santos seems to be like the more skilled guy for sure. I think he's got better striking than Clay Guida. He's definitely got better grappling than Clay Guida. And yeah, he's the bigger overall guy. Guida had some success at 145 pounds, whereas moving back up to 55, he's a little bit undersized. Santos, meanwhile, is the natural lightweight. But they're both older for sure. I mean, Leo Santos is 41 years old. So to say his best days are likely behind him is a fact. And for Clay Guida at 39 years old, he's got 21 career losses. That's what you would definitely consider abnormal in the UFC. Could you name another guy with 21 losses off the top of your head? It's very few and far between, right? But yeah, it's hard to get a range of what this thing's going to look at. Santos should win the fight. Santos at his best wins this fight. When you look at his fights with Anthony Rocco Martin, the fight with Kevin Lee, the fight with Stevie Ray, any of those fights, he wins this. His problem is he's got a very lackluster gas tank. He definitely tires out. The Adriano Martins fight, he tired out. This Roman Bogatov fight, which is just the ugliest fight you've ever seen in your life. He does gas out, though. And then the Grant Dawson fight his last time out. I didn't think his striking looked terrible in the first 2 rounds. His problem is he doesn't throw enough volume. He's still a jiu-jitsu guy at heart, even though his striking has come a long way. He doesn't have the volume. So he's relying on you taking him down. And in the case of Grant Dawson, when Grant Dawson would eventually take him down, yeah, I mean, he didn't have it. He didn't have the ability to just sub this guy within matters of seconds. It wasn't that easy. And then, unfortunately, he gets knocked out with like a second left on the clock. Actually, fortunately, because a lot of us had Grant Dawson inside the distance, but that was a tough fight to score. It felt like Grant Dawson was probably up 2-0 going in, but I saw some media outlets having it 2-0 for Santos going in. So they were close rounds, but his striking didn't look terrible in that fight. I think the way he matches up with Clay Guida is Clay likes to strike when he's having his way. When he's not having his way, he reverts back to what he does best, which is his wrestling. Giving up the 5 inches, he's going to be getting chewed up from the outside against Santos. So it's going to be his due diligence to close the distance and try to wrangle that guy to the ground at some point.
And
but
then when he does,
he's always had a propensity to leave his neck out there.
Yeah.
Like he's got 3 of his last 5 losses, I think, are by guillotine choke. He's got 10 career losses by way of submission. And it's just like a repetitive theme that's been happening to him time and time again. He's in another spot, though. If you were to live bet this, right, and it's 1-1 going into the third, I'm taking Clay Guida. He does have a better gas tank, and he's going to hustle him up in the third round. I just don't know for sure that, Clay makes it to the third. I think he gets caught somewhere in before that. And beyond that, like, I don't know. I don't know what his path is. Drag him to the ground. He's giving up the grappling. And if he keeps it standing, he's going to give up the reach. And to be honest with you, I honestly think Santos will probably outstrike him on the better strikes, outstrike him on the cleaner stuff. But yeah, volume could be Clay Guida's, and you're right. In a small octagon where Clay Guida is a fan favorite, it's Las Vegas. If he just keeps this thing close and competitive, yeah, maybe they do gift it to him. There's a lot of fights I like on this card. There's a lot of fights I'd like to bet on this card. Even though I'm taking Santos, he's a minus 180, and I feel like there's just so much better value on a lot of these underdogs that got legitimate chances than a 41-year-old guy who's looked like absolute shit 2 of his last 3 fights. I don't know. I'm not as sold on a minus 180 for Leo Santos. So he is going to be the official pick. I'm hoping he catches Clay Guida in a submission, but the confidence level is not where it should be.
Yeah, that's all in line. All right, moving on down. We got Jimmy Crute taking on Jamahal Hill, minus 160 Crute, plus 140 Hill. Both of these guys, interestingly, in their last time out, basically their fights end, well, not even basically. I mean, both of their fights ended via injury, really, right? Crute could barely walk, and frankly, both of them, I walked away from them losing those fights with more respect for them, really. I'm like, these guys are gonna fight. Jamahal Hill's damn arm is dangling all over the place, and he's still trying to use the other hand to do hammer fists and knock out Paul Craig. So, I mean, Crute, I feel like there was some serious. If he went in for the takedowns against Anthony Smith there earlier on, he could have definitely changed. He didn't have to end up in that situation. It's because he decided to stand at range and eat those leg kicks that he ended up in that situation. So minus 160 was 140. I'm going to lean towards Hill here, I think. If he does get taken to the ground, his grappling looked good enough, or at least his heart looked good enough that he wasn't going to tap. So hopefully he doesn't get injured if he gets down there, obviously, against a guy like Crute. But Paul Craig has, like, real finishing ability with his submissions. I think he's just going to out-volume Crute on the feet, and plus 140. That is the side that I prefer. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to agree, actually. See, both guys let me down as well, and both of them had just lapses in ring IQ. They made two bonehead decisions. You already talked about Jimmy Crute's bonehead decision. Why not take this guy down? You are a grappler. I know you've been working on your striking, and Sammy Greco's your kickboxing coach, which is pretty dope. But man, you have the natural advantage over Anthony Smith taking him down. Like, what are you messing with him stand up? He's got a good jab, he's got a good leg kick, and he's a long rangey guy. So him waiting too long, him allowing his leg to get completely pulverized before he decided to take the path of least resistance, bonehead decision. Jamahal Hill, meanwhile, he took down Paul Craig. He ends up on, so Paul Craig pulls guard, and he ends up on top of Paul Craig. But he got out of the initial armbar. And what do, Paul? You back out. You stand up. No, he re-engaged Paul Craig on the ground. He was like, oh, you want to try to break my arm? That's not going to happen. I'm going to out-grapple you. And then what Paul Craig proceed to do? Proceed to break his arm. So both guys they didn't go to the path of least resistance. Jamahal Hill would have just backed up, kept it standing. Jimmy Crute, don't keep it standing, take it to the ground. So now you have a spot where, both guys can actually have a path to victory to win this fight. Jimmy Crute with his ground game, Jamahal Hill with his striking. Whose ring IQ is going to blow it? Which guy's going to go out there and actually make it work for themselves? And to that extent, I got to think that Jamahal pulls it together. He's just such a long-rangey guy, 6'4", this weight class. Southpaw stance. He can be a switch striker if he wants, but he's got good hands. He's got a nasty body kick. You can tell that the kid's clearly confident in himself. And you're right. I mean, arm breaks. He's still trying to land hammer fist. He still goes out to the club dancing afterwards. There's a lot that you can like out of this guy. Great picture. He just made a bonehead decision in there, and I think that he'd go back to the drawing board and, kind of change that. Jimmy Crute, meanwhile, I think that was an ego thing. Like, you're taking on Anthony Smith. He's a former title challenger. He's fought in all the best guys in the division. And you know what? To his credit, he's actually beat most of the good guys in the division. You, meanwhile, have beat Modestas Bukauskas, Michael Alexikchuk, Sam Alvey. Not a win over Paul Craig. Give him that. Terrible fight, though. Well, entertaining, but my God, both guys gas quick. It's like it was a big jump up in competition. And I think instead of going out there and using the takedown, he decided to go out there and stand with him. If he's learned from that and he tries to take Hill down, it's not as easy as just take him down. Like, Hill's a big boy. He's got decent takedown defense. And I honestly think Hill probably stuffs it. If he stuffs it and it stays standing, it's Hill's. If Crute comes in with a poor game plan of just not even pursuing those takedowns and trying to stand with them, then he's going to lose as well. So I got to think that Hill edges him out. Again, this is a plus 140 Hill. This is a close fight. This is a fight that I would label probably as a dog or pass. I think both guys will have their moments. Both guys are capable of winning this fight. I think the most likely outcome, if you ran this as a simulated fight 100 times, is Hill keeps his fight standing and wins those striking exchanges. So I got to go with Jamahal Hill, plus 140.
All right, moving on down. We've got the people's main event, what everyone showed up for. We got Brendan Allen taking on Chris Curtis, minus 365 Brendan Allen, plus 280 Chris Curtis. I'm going to say quickly a few words, and then, I mean, nobody came to hear what I think about a Chris Curtis fight when I've got the Chris Curtis whisperer on the line. I think Brendan Allen's just a little bit too big for Chris Curtis. I think he's a rightful favorite. Maybe his minus 365 is a little bit wide, but Brendan Allen taught me a lesson or two against Puna Soriano. I thought Soriano would cause him problems on the feet. I thought maybe he would be able to mix in his wrestling, and Brendan Allen showed up and made the job look pretty easy, to be perfectly honest. I couldn't understand why people were betting on Brendan Allen, and I came away with egg on my face. So I think he's a rightful favorite. I'm not sure about the price of Brendan Allen minus 365 being the biggest favorite on the card against the action man Chris Curtis, coming off of a glorious, fourth line of Cody's parlays, making everybody all of the bucks. What a freaking legend Chris Curtis is. Yeah. Well, where are you at on this one? Because the people demand a Cody Saftic, Chris Curtis forecast.
Yeah, well, okay. First of all, it's a much tougher fight than last time out against Phil Hawes. So we love Chris Curtis. We love the action man. We're gonna back him. But yeah, against Phil Hawes, this is a no-brainer. Phil Hawes is a terrible gas tank, a terrible chin, and he is going to get knocked out at some point in the 15 minutes, which is what happened. Brendan Allen, I think you could make a debate, that he's got better durability, better cardio than Phil Hawes, and whereas Phil Hawes is a flat-out fraud, Brendan Allen isn't. He's young. He's getting a lot better. He's only 25 years old. And since he's moved over to Sanford MMA, you do see a lot of improvements out of him. Here's the thing, though, right? So when you look at the fight with Juana Soriano has 8 career fights, right? 8 career fights. Very, very green. Whereas Chris Curtis has like 35 professional fights at the highest level. Puna Soriano had never been in any adversity. His fights had been first round finish, a fight with Jamie Pickett on the Contender Series, which in hindsight, he looked like shit in, right? Other than the first round, he tired out. And then a bunch of first round finishes. So he had never faced adversity. He's only got 8 career fights, and we don't know that he can fight later into rounds. He actually didn't look bad in the first round against Allen. What happened was, in the second round, he gassed out. Once he gassed out, Allen took over. Allen still didn't finish him. By the way, Soriano may have had a wrestling advantage. He effectively shot 0 takedowns. So Soriano fought a terrible game plan, and I'm not going to say he's fraudulent. He's just super green. So to look at that and say, well, gee, Soriano hits harder than Action Man. Action Man's so much more seasoned than him. He's not going anywhere. I don't think he's getting knocked out. He's got better firepower. He's going to be able to carry that firepower throughout the course of 3. He'd be a much tougher fight, I believe. So I think Action Man's going to have a better shot here. When you look at Brendan Allen, he's supposed to fight Brad Tavares, similar matchup to Chris Curtis. And then he gets Roman Dolitz. Not a similar matchup in the slightest sense. And now he drops Chris Curtis. So on one hand, this is his third opponent change. On the other hand, Chris Curtis don't give a shit. He's fought every style. He'll fight any style. And he keeps coming on a short notice. The one thing that I will admittedly not like is Curtis has fought at 170, 185, and 205. He is a welterweight. He has the frame of a welterweight. Mm-hmm. He's 5'8", 5'9" at best.
Their reach is
he's
the
a
same,
welterweight.
though.
Yeah, he's got a long-ass reach up, 75.5 inch reach,
They're both 75.
I think he's got a half-inch reach advantage.
Well, according to Tapology, they're both 75, but splitting hairs at that point.
We're splitting hairs. I just looked. Fight Metrics got them both at 75.
For his height,
they've actually got
for his height. His arms are very long, 5'10". Like he's my height, but he's got a good reach on him. It's that he's got the frame of a welterweight, and when you see him in there against Phil Hawes is a much bigger man. The problem is Phil Hawes is a fraud, right? So he chin checks him eventually. When you think about him versus Brandon Allen's going to be the much bigger guy. After the fight with Phil Hawes, they talked to Chris Curtis and they're like, "Are you going to stick around at 185?" And he says, "No." He says, "No, I'm going back down to 170. I'm a welterweight." The thing is with the UFC is there's certain guys like James Krause. James Krause is a great example. Why does it? Well, he just had an interview where he kind of explained it, but why does James Krause not get booked on fights? Why do you only see James Krause's name appear when they need somebody on 24 hours notice? He wants to fight. He's willing to fight. Joaquin Buckley called him out very publicly for a fight. Why not just book that? No. They only use the guy on 24 hours notice. It doesn't make sense. There's other guys that they're short notice specialists. That's what they're doing with Chris Curtis. They're just giving him short notice fights. The good thing here is that Chris Curtis has fought the majority of his career like that. So I don't think he minds. Now, the last time Brendan Allen was made to look like an absolute fool is when he fought Sean Strickland, where he stood in front of him and he absolutely got torn apart. Sean Strickland is the chief sparring partner and chief cornerman for Action Man, and he's going to be there. And it's this Apex, and he's going to be ringside. And you've seen Sean Strickland interviews. He's not all there. He's just going to be talking lots of shit from cage side. Brendan Allen is going to have to listen to this outrageous amount of shit while still having to fight Action Man. And from everything I've seen with Action Man on social media and whatnot, and checking in where he's at, great shape, fired up, ready to go, no injuries, and has just been working on boxing. Work the body, roast the body, come over the top. I think he's going to be in this. If he gets taken down, that would be the one frustrating thing, but his takedown defense is solid. And if Brendan Allen goes to a wrestling heavy attack, then there's no guarantee that he won't tire the later the fight goes. The thing with Action Man is the more tired you get, the bigger problem you're going to have. He's a slow starter, but he keeps coming on like a tank engine. I'm going to admit, I did not think Phil Hawes should have been a favorite over him. Action Man should have been a money line favorite. They gave you 3-1. It was the easiest thing in the world. This, I agree that Brendan Allen should be the favorite. However, 365, out of here. We're going Action Man. Action Man gets the job done. He's going to have another bad first round as he normally does.
got to take over in this thing late and get either a late stoppage or make sure you seal 2 of the 3 rounds.
Giddy on up. That's what the people wanted to hear. Like, what would you think the line should be on this?
I would say because
like, I'm just trying to test. I'm trying to test your confidence levels. Like, you think they should be the favorite? What do you think it should be? Like minus 150?
Minus 165.
So like 60-40 type of split? Like Action Man wins 40% of the time type of thing?
Yeah, Action Man, in my heart, Action Man going to go out there and do his damnedest. But yeah, it's only a 3-round fight. 5-round would definitely favor Action Man. And he's probably going to drop the first round. He tends to drop first rounds. Even in the Phil Haas
maybe
fight,
a better live bet.
The plan was actually to drop the first round. Even talking to him afterwards, he's like, oh, yeah. I'm not bigger than this guy. I'm not faster than this guy. I'm not stronger than this guy. So what was I supposed to do? Just attack him right off the bell and go punch for punch? He's like, I let him punch himself out for 3 minutes and then I countered. It was like, what a beautiful game plan. But that's veteranship. That's experience. And I think that experience is what's going to carry you. Again, we're talking Brendan Allen should be a favorite. Why? Well, he beat Soriano his last time out. Well, that's not really all that impressive. Well, he beat Carl Roberson the time before that. Okay, all right. Well, that really wasn't all that impressive. And then he got smoked up by Sean Strickland. He's got good-looking wins on his record. Oh, Kevin Holland. There's a name a fan recognizes. Oh, Kyle Daukaus. There's a name fans recognize. But it's all styles make fights. And where I do agree, Action Man would be better suited for 170 pounds. He's got good sprawl and brawl technique. He's got good wrestling, counter wrestling. He keeps his fight standing. Brandon Allen punches himself out a little bit in the first round. Action Man's going to come on strong. The other thing is his body work is second to none in the UFC. This guy roasts the body. And believe me, from all this footage of him online, he plans on coming in here and roasting the body. So expect a tough first round, maybe even a better live betting on. But I do think in my heart of hearts that he's going to chomp down on the mouthpiece and take care of business.
All right. That's what the people wanted to hear. I'll be betting Chris Curtis before this line adapts to the Whisperer as the week goes on. All right, moving on down, we got Bryan Barbarena taking on Darian Weeks, minus 200 Barbarena, plus 160 Weeks. This fight just added yesterday, I believe. Yesterday being Tuesday, not when yesterday as opposed to when you are watching the show right now. Watched a little bit of tape on Weeks. He looks a little bit stiff, rigid. But Barbarena has not looked great in a long time. I was trying to dig into Weeks. He kind of just looks like he's like a striker to me. I know that he's a blue belt at 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. I was creeping his Instagram a little bit. The stand-up, he looks like powerful. He's obviously young. He's developing. He looks a little bit rigid, stiff, but I wish I knew that if Darian Weeks had a little bit of wrestling in his back pocket, because Jason Witt 8 takedowns. The previous fights to that, Barbarena, he's shown his hand at this point. The guy can't stop a take. Anthony Ivy got 5 takedowns against him. Like Bryan Barbarena against Jason Witt too. It's like the writing was on the wall, and I was on Bryan Barbarena. I believe it was like plus 175 by knockout. He was like he's like a 3-1 favorite. And round 3, he almost got there, but I mean, a little bit too little, too late. The guy's been a warrior. He's taken a lot of damage. I think his ability to absorb that damage is limited. He's never been the biggest at 170 pounds. Obviously, he was getting ready to take on Matt Brown in this spot. But I wish I knew more about this Darian Weeks guy rather than like the 5 minutes of tape I was able to watch on him. But I'm not so confident in laying the wood on Bryan Barbarena at this point in 2021. So, yeah, screw it. I'll for the purposes of the show, no bet, but I'll take Darian Weeks to pull the upset here. What about you?
Dude, I actually agree. I think you could just spam bet any underdog in a spot against Bryan Barbarena. I think he's absolutely shot to bits. His best days are over, and there's a good argument his best days really weren't all that good to begin with. His wins, right? Joe Ellenberger, it's Jake's younger brother. He's got a rare blood disease, and I think he only fought in the UFC once or twice. Anyways, he's cut. That's the main thing. Sage Northcutt, cut. Worley Alves is actually still on the roster, although he's terrible. Joe Proctor's cut. Jake Ellenberger, the older brother, he's cut. Anthony Ivy's cut. So all the guys he's won have been classified as pretty bad, to be honest with you. And his losses, good guys, admirable performances, but it's the theme is that Bryan Barbarena takes a lot of damage. Whether he's able to persevere and take you out late, great, but he always takes a lot of damage. I think the first moment where you saw this was the Vicente Luque fight. He's in it, Paul. He's in a very competitive fight versus a guy who's being talked about as the next potential title challenger against a guy who's on everybody's top 5 rankings list at 170 pounds. He's in a close fight with him. Great fight with him. He took a lot of damage and he got knocked out late in the third. Then the Randy Brown fight. I don't think anybody thought Randy Brown would come out there and beat him worse than Vicente Luque did, but it was the damage. He took an absolute tremendous beating from Randy Brown. I believe he was a minus 250 favorite over Randy Brown, and he gets knocked out. This is where things spiral out of control for him. He ends up having like a real bad back injury, has like double back surgery. According to him, he balloons up to like 240 pounds and is like, my career is done. A couple doctors tell him, your career is done. Comes back and beats Anthony Ivy, but first of all, it was a decision win over Anthony Ivy. Not like he looked all that good. It's just Anthony Ivy's the worst guy in the roster. Was the worst guy in the roster, right? Had a terrible run in the UFC. He barely greases by this guy, and then he gets this Jason Witt fight where he's a minus 270 favorite. Anybody can go back and watch the preview show that when we talked about Bryan Barbarena versus Jason Witt, all we did was detail how unbelievably shot to bits Bryan Barbarena is. His back's gone. He's come down from 240, but his mobility's gone. His chin's gone. He is not the guy he used to be. And then he goes and loses as that minus 270 favorite over Jason Witt. Now, you're right. The wrestling was a huge part of it. Witt had to have takedowns whenever he wanted. But Witt can't strike to save his life. He's super robotic. Like, he's so stiff. And yet, I mean, Bryan Barbarena almost knocked him out a few times as a result, but he landed some heavy shots of his own on Bryan Barbarena. Mixed in the wrestling, that was the easy path to victory. But the guy's not defensively sound, and it's not like he's getting defensively sound in the gym. He eats a lot of punches. His thing is he keeps coming forward. His body's broken to bits. His back is injured, and he doesn't have the chin that he used to. So they booked him against Matt Brown. Well, this is a perfect fight because Matt Brown's 42 years old, has a really bad back. Like, I mean, Matt Brown's back might be worse than Bryan Barbarena's. And, you know, he's shot, but he's a fan favorite. This is going to be a fun fight. Could last 1 round, could last 3 rounds. Who knows? But at least they're kind of both on that same level. Fun. Now you lose Matt Brown and you get Darian Weeks. Well, yeah, who the hell is Darian Weeks? He's a 1-1 pro boxer. Like, okay. Blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Okay. What about his wins, you know? Has he fought anybody near the level of a Vicente Luque? No. Has he fought anybody near the level of a Randy Brown? No. Has he fought a bunch of Phil Ivies? Yeah, shit, actually. He's fought worse guys than Phil Ivey. So he's got no experience.
No.
The thing I'll admit, though, is Bryan Barbarena, if he decides he wants to have some type of grinding war on him, then this kid's going to be open to land some shots. Does he put him down? Maybe. Could be. Like I said, he was a former pro boxer. He does show knockout victories on his record. That fight with Craig Fairley in LFA, you know, nice knockout. The problem is the dude's 3-4. So that's the dilemma here, is that Bryan Barbarena could take this fight down to the ground. He would win it there. Bryan Barbarena could grind him up against the cage. And what is the pro boxer got 15 minutes of cardio? Do we think that this pro boxer can fight 3 full MMA rounds? No, he's going to get tired. If Bryan grinds on him, if Bryan takes him down, or if Bryan makes it one of those bloody wars again, he could win in all those scenarios. But when they feed you Bryan Barbarena as a favorite, you always have to beware. And minus 200, not terrible, against a guy that's taking the fight effectively on a few days' notice. Like, you should
just opened.
Keep in mind he's a disappointment at this point. He's open to get beat. He's open to lose as a favorite. Oh, wow. And you can't just automatically write this Darian Weeks guy off. So I will take Bryan Barbarena. I will, but God, I really don't love it.
I'm not gonna. Okay, so I'm looking on. I'm looking on best fight odds right now, and someone just laid a hammer on. I mean, who knows what a hammer is in terms of max at bet online right now, but he's down to Barbarena's down to minus 146 there, plus 126 on Weeks. So
there you go.
You're not going to get a better price than the plus 160, and frankly, most people listening to this show, the market's going to follow that. The plus 160 that we're saying on the show right now is not going to exist by the time you watch this program. So people are kind of, I guess, seeing the same thing. People are seeing, like, I'm not betting Bryan Barbarena to win 66% of the time with a the guy needs a bacchiotomy at this point. Absolutely. All right, we got another guy who has been a big letdown for Mr. Cody Saftic not so long ago. Dusko Todorovic takes on Maki Pitolo, minus 160 Todorovic, plus 140 for Maki Coconut Bombs Pitolo. Who you got here, bud?
Yeah, so I mean, Dusko is my Slavic brother. You know, we got to stick together. Even though I'm Croatian, he's Serbian. Our histories don't exactly line up. We're former Yugoslavians, and water under the bridge. This guy's my guy. Unfortunately, he hasn't lived up to expectations. His Teddy Ash fight on Contender Series, Teddy Ash from Alberta, that should have been a walk in the park for Dusko, but he did actually take a lot of shots in that fight. Oh well, it doesn't matter because he gets the win, right? He beats Daquan Townsend. It's a layup victory that you should be taking, but he knocks out Daquan, not the easiest thing in the world. So, you know, I guess there's this perception he's undefeated. He throws a lot of shots. The thing is that he's a massive defensive liability. He fights with his hands right by his hips, and he does not move his head. So it almost just seems like a question of when is somebody going to catch him. And while Soriano is that guy, he's got heavy hands. He's a first-round fighter. If Dusko could have potentially survived that first round, yeah, maybe you tire him. Maybe you take him some deeper waters, but everything that he got hit with was clean on the chin and rocked him. He was rocked multiple times in that fight until the referee eventually came in and stopped it. Officially, he gave up 2 knockdowns, but it was just like, again, huge defensive liability. Then this Gregory Rodriguez fight, Paul, it was much of the same. He doesn't move his head. He doesn't protect himself. And his stinging power on his own punch is not that great. His judo, not that great. His ground game, not that great. He's getting taken down by Rodriguez. He's getting outstruck. The Soriano fight, he was on skates from the first punch that landed, none of which is good. He will have a cardio advantage over Maki Pitolo, but Maki's got quicker hands, sharper hands, better technical boxing. He's going to beat him to the punch. And when he beats him to the punch, they call him coconut bombs for a reason, he's going to rock Dusko up. When you look at Maki's last 2 fights, okay, the Impak and Sanganai fight, god damn, he looked good in the first round. And then he completely gassed out second and third, lost the decision. The Julian Marquez fight,
he's winning.
He actually, he won the first 2 rounds. And then he gassed out and he got submitted in the third. So we know that cardio is most definitely an issue for him. But at 31, is this not something you could address a little bit? It is. And against Dusko Todorovic, if you can just beat him up 2 rounds, do you think he's going to finish you in the third? Probably not. So I got Maki, but I'm definitely looking at this thing from a live betting perspective. Is that if it's 1-1 going into the third, I don't know. I think that I might try to hedge out and go with Dusko. I'm just not sold on Maki's third round abilities, but he's a cleaner technical boxer. This thing figures to be more of a stand-up battle. I think he's going to beat him with a punch. I think he could knock him out, but I think more than that, he's just going to earn his respect. And Dusko, meanwhile, he kind of seems a little bit half lost out there. So this is another live underdog opportunity, plus 140 on Maki Pitolo.
Yeah, we're starting to get into the part of the card here where it's like, I was looking at it and I was kind of like, it almost feels like you could probably bet all of the underdogs and you may end up coming out ahead on the night. Or if you lose, like some of these underdogs are coming through. I mean, let's hop right into this one. We got Jake Matthews taking on Jeremiah Wells, minus 180 Matthews, plus 155 for Jeremiah Wells, who, I mean, had a hell of a UFC debut, taking on, what's his face? Warley Alves, and absolutely just boot stomped him. He's buddies with Paul Felder, I believe. And, I mean, the guy is built. The guy hits hard, and he seemed ferocious from the opening bell in that fight. Like, Warley just didn't know what to do when that amount of fury was there. I'm actually kind of surprised Jake Matthews is minus 180 in this spot, because we go back all the way back to the beginning of Akbar Areola back in 2015. Remember the head kick?
Holy
that
shit,
Areola
man.
landed, and Jake Matthews was like a minus 700 favorite there. It's like, this Wells kid, I think he hits a lot harder than Akbar Areola. You got Kevin Lee with a ground and pound finish over him. I mean, he's been rocked. The chin has been questionable. The cardio is average. He's kind of a prospect that just never really came into his own, in my opinion. He never really got to his peak, and a lot of that may be to blame with his with not wanting to leave his family confines for his training. Wells is obviously putting in work with some of Philly's finest, putting in work with Paul Felder on the regular. I think it's a dogger pass situation here. What about you?
Yeah, not only is he working with Paul Felder, he's actually putting a lot of work in with Sean Brady, who's the last man that actually beat Jake Matthews. Yep. So, yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense for sure. The one thing I would say with Jeremiah Wells is he knew he was taking the fight with Warlley Alves on like a day's notice. So he came out and fought a game plan. It's not sustainable. He did win the fight. Don't get me wrong. He got the knockout 30 seconds in, but he gassed himself out going for the prize in the first round. Yeah, he's gassed out in the first round, like by the end of it. And then the second round, it's like, okay, Warlley, who's got a bad gas tank himself, just survive the first couple minutes. This guy's going to be tired. And then boom, 30 seconds into the second round, he just drops him with a right hook and then gets on top of him and punches him out. When you look at his game, he's a power grappler. He's got good jiu-jitsu, but he's a very physically strong guy. And I think all of that poses a problem for Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews, again, you very much nailed this. He just never wanted to leave his confines of his small gym. His father is his head coach. His father is his head cornerman, and he's never really made any improvements. When you look at, again, you got to look at, we'll start with Deshaun Johnson, right? Pro boxer, terrible fighter, by the way. And he's no longer with the UFC. Wagner Roca, no longer with the UFC. Loses to James Vick, who's no longer with the UFC. Akbar Theriola, no longer with the UFC. Johnny Case, no longer with the UFC. Kevin Lee just got released from the UFC. Andrew Holbrook, no longer with the UFC. Bojan Velkovic, no longer with the UFC. Jing Liang Lee's still there. What's up? Shinzo Anzai, no longer with the promotion. Anthony Rocco Martin just got arrested in a Vegas casino for pissing in the hallway. Roscoe Ackman is released. Emil Weber Meek is released. Diego Sanchez is dying due to COVID, right, in a hospital. Still skeptical about getting that vaccine. And then Sean Brady absolutely blew the tits off him. So they like Jake Matthews. They've given Jake Matthews a ton of winnable fights. And sometimes he wins, sometimes he doesn't. But there's no marginal improvement out of him. His striking hasn't really gotten all that much better. His grappling, even though it's like, oh, he's a grappler, and at 170 now he's super muscular and he's strong, he's still getting easily out-grappled by Sean Brady. He got easily out-grappled by Anthony Rocco Martin. He was easily out-grappled by... There's just bad spots for him. Even that Holbrook fight, I'm pretty sure it's in Australia and he's a minus 500 favorite. Still loses at 155. All of it's bad news, man. He doesn't have any real finishing ability. He seems to mostly just grind these guys by decision. And so how does he match up against Jeremiah Wells? Well, as far as the striking goes, I would want to give a slight advantage to Jake Matthews on like his technical ability, but Wells hits a lot harder. Wells has got power. Wells could just bum rush him and make this ugly. As far as the grappling goes, Wells going to be able to hang with them. Cardio is the one edge I give to Jake Matthews. Jake Matthews does fight a lot of these decisions. So in theory, if he can just survive that first round and a half, Wells starts to tire, Jake Matthews ends up on top of him. You know, they score the second round for Matthews. It's 1-1 going in the third, as we've talked about lots so far in this preview show. I think Matthews probably digs deep and pulls it out. But again, when you look at the line just doesn't make sense. Like there's very little worlds that exist that I want to bet at minus 180 Jake Matthews. He's a letdown. He's fought subpar competition. He's not making any improvements. He's also only 27, Cody. Give him a chance. I gave him a chance over the last 6 years. There's nothing there. It's not getting better. So is Wells the beneficiary of one big win? Is he a fraud, but he smoked out Warlley Alves, and so now we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt? It could be. We could be buying a little too much in a little too soon, but they're giving you an underdog price. It's not like they're saying he's the minus 180, which I actually could have foresee that's a line that could exist. Jeremiah Wells is the favorite in this spot. Like I'm not sure what makes Matthews the favorite other than experience. Experience is all he's got. And as we just talked about, a lot of those guys that he's experienced against, not really cutting it. So come and take another shot. I'm going to take Jeremiah Wells, 155 underdog.
Let's go.
Sorry, plus 155 underdog.
I actually see him out there on the market right now. Jeremiah Wells by KO/TKO plus 550.
Plus 550. Yeah. Well, I guess it's because Matthews been knocked out the one time. But you're right, dude. Areola had him this close to being separated from his consciousness. Kick to the
and
face.
If we're worried about Wells gassing out, like maybe the better path is for him just to close them. I'm betting it right now. It's only a little sprinkle. Only a little sprinkle on the air here, but
he's got a full camp this time too, doesn't he? Yeah. So I mean that's gotta help a little bit. He looked pretty damn good on a day's notice this last time. And I would think a full camp with Sean Brady, who just fought Michael Chiesa in a big spot, and it would be like, yeah, dude, I grapple you every day. I could tell you, once you hit the ground with this kid, you're going to be too strong for him. If that's the case, yeah, Wells is an underdog. Why not?
Confirm bet. Puelles by KO plus 550. All right, Manel Kape takes on Zhalgas Zhumagulov minus 250 Kape plus 200 for Zhalgas. Who we got here?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is another one that could be greasy real quick. I don't agree with the pricing on it. You got Kape as a huge favorite, and I feel like the UFC's wanted to do that since the get-go. I mean, they paid a whole bunch of money for him. He was coming over. He was going to be a huge star, and the fact that he's even money against Alexander Pantoja, a top flyweight in his first fight, showed that they had a lot of faith in him. Just the odds makers, the fans, the promotion. The next fight with Matus Nicolau, even though he shits the bed against Pantoja, fight's just the worst fight you could possibly think of. Still a favorite over Matus Nicolau. And then that last fight against Odi Osborne, I didn't think he looked all that good in the first round. He was looking better, and then he smashes him with a flying knee to the face. So how good is this guy really? He looked good in Japan when he was allowed to wear shoes and was fighting, subpar Japanese competition in a ring. As far as being in the UFC goes, you can tell there's a whole lot of talent there. BJJ brown belt, physically strong guy. The takedown's not the most technical, but he gets away with a lot of brute strength. Got some nasty counter punching, very precise puncher, and he's got big power in both hands. So there's stuff that you can like there, but there's no urgency. Sorry, it's just like him staring at his opponent a lot of the time, and that leads to low striking numbers. Low striking numbers leads to the judges don't care for your style. And when you're looking at a guy who's minus 260, he's a minus 250 favorite over Zhalgas. It's like, I'd like to see him just do a little bit more. It's not that I don't think he can win. It's that, I'd got to do a little bit more. Zhalgas, meanwhile, he at one time was an all-output guy. It does take lulls off, but when he attacks you, he really goes out and attacks you. The problem is his first loss against Rolion Pava, I thought he won, but he allowed his opponents to lead the dance. His fight with Amir Albazi, he definitely did not win, but he allowed Albazi to lead the dance. Finally, against Jerome Rivera, he just went right at him. He dropped him with a right hand and then picked up this guillotine choke, but Jerome Rivera is 0-4 in the UFC for a reason, right? He's not an elite level competitor. Whereas Manel Kape is going to have superior footwork, superior speed. He's a good counter puncher. He's going to keep the fight standing, I believe. Zhalgas will be coming forward. He's going to play Matador, but for minus 250, this is a walk in the park. I don't necessarily think it's a walk in the park. Knocking out Zhalgas, good luck, buddy. Good luck. So you're going to have to fight him for 15 minutes. And if you fight him for 15 minutes and you're unwilling to land more than 30 or 40 significant strikes, it's going to get greasy. Exactly. Greasy. Don't like greasy. So
you're going to leave it in the judge's hands, and who knows what happens when it's left in their hands. And it's, one guy's landing the more pretty strikes, maybe the more damaging strikes, but the other guy's in his face just pushing forward. I mean,
it depends who the judges are, right? Yep. Some judges, you get one takedown. They love it. Some judges, the grinding factor. Some judges, oh, geez, this guy outlanded him 30-15, but it's like, yeah, but he got dropped. What, would he landed 30 strikes? It's like, what? You don't know what they're looking at. So when I'm betting a guy that's minus 250, minus 300, I either want very strong possibility my guy's finishing the other guy, right? He's a 3-1 favorite. He should get the finish. Or this is a walk in the park all 3 rounds. This one, I can't say I agree with any of that.
Yep. I agree with you on all fronts there. All right, moving on down, we got Cheyenne Vlismas taking on Mallory Martin. Cheyenne Vlismas, formerly Cheyenne buys. This isn't the Maury Povich show. We're not going to get into what happened there. Who knows? That's her business. But she's not a buys guy anymore. Minus 190 Vlismas, plus 160 Mallory Martin. You got any hot leans on this one? I mean, I'm not betting a former buys at minus 190 literally against just about anyone, so it's gonna take a lot of convincing.
Listen, I think you're on the accurate road here. Why would you want to bet at this price tag? Why would you want Cheyenne Vlismas buys? Doesn't really matter. I mean, does she have personal crap that she's going through? Could be personal stuff that she's dealing with. Beyond any of that, though, what concerns me is this article that she did on
I did not catch this article.
It was on November 19th. So that's effectively what, 12 days ago? I'm still not 100%. Yeah, I'm still not 100%. Vlismas told MMA Junkie Radio, my fight is now 2 weeks away. COVID attacked my lungs pretty good. So basically, I'm taking this fight, just trying to heal up and go out there and do my thing. Luckily, the UFC is working with me. I'm going to go see a doctor on Monday. I'm going to get an inhaler, taking all the breathing treatments I can do. This is definitely one of the craziest things I've ever done in my life, except this fight. But I have all the confidence in myself to go out there and beat her ass and go home. I just have a terrible cough. I cannot breathe. But because of fighting, I've just been trying to train my lungs back, Vlismas said. If I can get my lungs back, I'll be good to go. Basically, what they called me for the fight, with the fight being so close and I'm still currently sick, I basically just told myself, if this girl ran up to me on the streets right now, would I fight her? And I said yes. Well, that's not surprising because she's crazy bitch. Okay?
I'll meet you in the parking lot.
I'll follow you home, bitch.
I'll follow you home. Like, that was the line.
Right. So she's insane. We know she's insane.
Yeah.
And yeah, she'd fight her if she ran up on her. But the fact that this is we're not
in the Target parking lot here. Like this is the octagon, and your opponent is getting ready for a 15-minute fight.
Yeah, I'm always ready to fight. I'm always ready to scrap. So for me, this is crazy. I don't know. Basically, I'm just trying to heal up. But this is the craziest thing I've ever done. So none of that inspires. I would like to go and bet this girl she's a minus 190 favorite. Like, should she win? Honestly, she's a lot stronger than Mallory Martin. She stops the takedown. She ends up on top. She keeps the fight standing. She's a better striker. Yes, she probably should beat Mallory Martin. And I've pulled the trigger on a lot of underdogs. I can't say I'm going to pull the trigger on Mallory Martin. But how could that possibly inspire any type of confidence in you? It doesn't.
In the women's strawweight division, where I know that Cheyenne is coming off of a first round finish, but like first round finishes are very rare in this division. So you have to trust in them to be able to fight 15 minutes to secure victory most of the time. And yeah, it's November 19th is when that article was written. Like that's 2 weeks ago.
It's 2 weeks ago. Now you factor in Mallory Martin as a BJJ brown belt. She trains at Elevation Fight Team in Colorado. Mm-hmm. So cardio is not going to be an issue for her. And if there was one issue with Cheyenne Buys, Vlismas, it's like Montserrat Ruiz just threw the exact same head and arm choke over and over. Not head and arm choke, sorry. Head and arm throw.
My baby, that was amazing.
Yeah, you
Great
called
day
that,
at the
man.
office.
Great day at the office. You spammed a girl with a neck tat and it worked out just on like the basis of the same throw over and over again. Vise had no answer to it. And then her last fight with Gloria Padua, come on, that's not exactly a super high level win. Like, so
I wonder what Cheyenne's doing in terms of training right now. Like did I don't know. What's her former husband's name?
JP.
Did JP leave the gym or something? Or like I saw her, like I looked on her Instagram for work purposes. I was on there and she's with like Ray Sefo in Las Vegas. It seems like she's been putting in time at the gym, but yeah, I don't know. Who knows? But like that's a lot of drama and stuff on top of having COVID, on top of all these other issues. So yeah, I think you look to fade her in the live markets is probably the best way to go about this if you see her start to slow down.
Hey, football fans, I'm sure we all love an action-packed, high-scoring NFL game, but with the latest no-brainer from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, you'll be a winner once a single point is scored. New customers who bet just $1 on any team to score can win $100 in free bets. It's that simple. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, you can still get in on the NFL action. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings daily fantasy sports contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code DOP. Bet $1 on any team to score and win $100 in free bets. If they score, you score with promo code DOP this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, and Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
All right, moving on down. We got Alonzo Menifield taking on William Knight. Minus 150 for Menifield. Plus 130 for Thick Willie. My God. I kind of probably assumed that these guys would always take on each other at some point. But here it is upon us. And I mean, I used to think that Knights had like a really, really decent, like underrated grappling game up until the fight with Da Jung, and you got taken down like 8 times with like the exact same trip. It was only 3 times. Either way, It's very, 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 very tilting being on that side, and he seemed to have no answer for it whatsoever. Sorry, yes, he was taken down 8 times. Memory had served me correct there. But like Menifield is, he's made improvements. Obviously, he went 3 rounds against Ed Herman last time out, but I still think if the fight is at a half decent pace, especially if you're able to secure some takedowns, put in that work early, I think he will falter down the stretch. So again, I'm more interested in betting the underdog William Knight here at plus 130 than I am on Alonzo Menifield as the favorite. And it seems like the market has been moving that way. It was like plus 150 a day and a half ago when I had first made the boards, and it's moved down to plus 130. And it seems like it's kind of moving across the market right now. It's plus 120 in a lot of spots now as we record this podcast. So people are liking themselves some thick Willie here. Do you?
No, not at all.
You
Don't like William Knight in this. No, not in the slightest sense.
Okay.
I like a lot of the underdogs on this card. This is one I do not like
That's fair.
at all. So again, when you look at thick Willie Knight, it's like, oh, well, what does he do? Well, he's got that ground game, and he's got this, and he's got that. Listen, he's tiny for this weight class, and I know they got him listed at 5'10" with a 73-inch reach, but this is 205. Like, he's not going to get away with it forever. And you do see in a lot of these spots, he's just a much, much smaller guy. But so far, I don't know what there is to like out of him. We saw him against Stephane Njakui on the regional scene, where Njakui looked like a grappling wizard. That's a bad sight. The Cody Brunridge fight in Contender Series, Brunridge took him down, gassed himself out. He gets the win there. That's kind of the repetitive theme. Alexa Kamor, not a great fight against not a great fighter. You know, he gets the victory. Dong Jung gets exposed in the takedown. Sure. It's the Fabio Charan fight I'd like to talk about, Paul. He looked like dog shit in that fight. He got backed up by Fabio Charan. He got easily punched up by Fabio Charan. He's losing the fight handily. He looks lost. He looks like he has no idea what to do. His wrestling is garbage. His striking is garbage. And then he closes his eyes and turns away. He's going to get knocked out probably within the next minute of the fight. He closes his eyes, he turns away, and he half cocks Fabio Charan, who falls over unconscious. So was it a lucky punch? I mean, his eyes were closed and he was looking away, so potentially. But, you know, it's a game of skill. It's a game of this and that. I get it. We'll give him the win. The problem is that he looked unbelievably terrible in that fight. And then, yes, Dong Jung took him down 9 times, the exact same takedown, outside trip, all 9 times, easy money. When you look at Alonzo Menifield, they threw him to the wolves, right? Because he knocked out Paul Craig. He knocked out Vinicius Moreira. He went 2-0 in the Contender Series, knocking out both guys in the first round, including the last one, Deshaun Boatwright, 8 seconds. He's huge. He's jacked. He's got power. We love him. So they throw him in too deep too soon. Now, let's talk about Devin Clark. Devin Clark's fought a lot of the better guys in the division. Devin Clark comes from a legitimate collegiate wrestling background, and he's a tough style for a lot of these 205ers because he's got big, thick legs. He can push you up against the cage, and he shoots for takedowns. He couldn't take down Alonzo Menifield for the first 2 rounds. Menifield is physically strong. In fact, Menifield kicked his ass in the first, swallowed his eyes shut, landed a nasty uppercut. The problem is the grind. The guy fights a lot of 1-round fights. He's not used to going to the second and third. He's not used to fighting wrestlers. So I thought Clark fought an excellent game plan of grinding this guy. Now his next fight against OSP, he's so worried about gassing out. He fought very hesitant and then got knocked out with OSP signature left hook. So now he's a total write-off. Nobody likes this guy, but he's very green in his career still. He only had like 10 MMA fights. He's at a Fortis MMA, which is the top gym in Texas. They're high up on him. He's making improvements. Let's see how far he can take it. So he draws Fabio Charan, and he walked right through him. He picked him up. He slammed him. He put him in a Von Prue choke. Choked him out a minute and 11. Easy money. And then he draws Ed Herman. Well, you know what? The Ed Herman fight, he put a full performance together. Why? Because it went 15 minutes. But I thought he looked good. He landed, I think, 94 significant strikes over the course of 15 minutes. 93 significant strikes and a takedown over Ed Herman. So his cardio checked out. You can see the improvements that he's making. So how does William Knight match up against him? Well, William Knight would maybe have this wrestling event. He doesn't. William Knight's not going to take down Alonzo Menifield, not in the first 2 rounds anyways. And by the 3rd round, they're both going to be tired. So much muscle on these guys. As far as the striking goes, William Knight's not a good striker in the slightest sense of the world. So Menifield will back him up. He's going to taste Menifield's power. He's not going to like it. He's going to close his eyes and turn his head. Only this time, he's not going to clip the guy. The guy's going to clip him. So I think he's going to get knocked. I almost dropped my first F-bomb, but
nice
I didn't.
Nice pull on that.
I know. TV land, man. You're not allowed to swear on TV land. I dropped a couple B's, bitch. I don't know. They never gave me anything about that. Just F-bomb. So caught myself. But yeah, I think Menifield's going to put it on him. So he's only a minus 130. It's close to even money. Like you said, some money's rolling on Knight. I think this is dog city. I think every dog's got a shot. And of course, Knight got a shot too. But what is his shot? Wrestling? I don't think so. Striking? I don't think so. Well, every other underdog that we've backed has got a path of
maybe
victory.
Maybe cage control,
Yeah,
slowing down
Menifield,
and then winning close rounds with 12-7 strikes landed. Like he's got
That's fair.
He's got to win an ugly one if he's gonna win one against Menifield.
When you see Knight, it's like, oh my god, dude, 5'10", 73-inch reach, guy's thick. When you see Menifield, it's like, oh, 6 foot, 76-inch reach. Like he's a big boy. He's a big, strong boy. Used to play football. Like, God, I think that if
actually,
you know what?
I don't know for sure.
If you coached
used to be a
high school program, if you coached a high school football program in the United States and you saw one of these guys walking down the hallway, you would not be a good coach if you didn't try to recruit them.
Of course.
For sure they played some type of sports. But now they're MMA fighters. Who's the better MMA fighter? I would say Knight's got that experience and that he had fought on the regional scene. He had fought, some decent guys, whereas Menifield just walked through everybody. He never faced any adversity. You saw him face adversity. You've seen him come back in his last 2 fights. And honestly, when you see progression of a fighter, okay, there's still stuff that they can improve on. Knight's Knight. He is who he is. Thick Willie. I just don't think he's in for a great night on Saturday. So I will be taking the favor on this spot. I got Alonzo Menifield.
All right. I have no idea what to think about this next one, but I rarely do when usually it's a fade, and I ended up paying the price with Gruetzemacher last time out when he beat Rafa Garcia. Definitely it was Rafa Garcia that showed up that day. Minus 110. Claudio Puelles can be had for minus 110. Straight pick 'em. You got a hard lean on this one, or I don't know. There's 15 fights on the card, so this is I don't know what to do with Gruetzemacher after looking so good in his that was a career best performance from him, and I really wasn't expecting to see it. So I feel kind of lost with him. What about you?
Yeah, well, I got to agree. I think both guys have actually cost me money in their last 2 fights because you got Claudio Puelles. He pulled off an underdog win over Jordan Levitt, who I thought was way better than he ended up being. And then you got Chris Gruetzemacher, who just backed up Rafa Garcia and beat the crap out of him. But which one was more impressive? Jordan Levitt did absolutely nothing. It was a terrible fight, and he gassed out. Claudio Puelles benefited from that. Chris Gruetzemacher earned every inch of his win. He did. Faced a little adversity in the first round. He's got cardio that's very difficult to replicate. He keeps coming the entire time. 15 minutes on you the entire time. His striking is definitely unorthodox. He works the body a lot. He tires you out, but it's his ability to just keep pressuring and staying in your face. So how do you beat this guy? You need to put him away. You need to knock him out. You need to take him down, submit him, or you need to knock him out. And if you don't, he is going to continue to walk you down and put a beating on you. His fight with Joe Lozon was beautiful work. And then he got knocked out with Alexander Hernandez and took some time off. So there's that
fighting
lull,
a much higher level of competition, in fairness. Like
much,
you look
much,
through
much higher.
He's losing to Hernandez, Davi Ramos, Chas Skelly. He did lose to the GOAT on the Ultimate Fighter. But the GOAT's gonna do GOAT things. But yeah, he is fighting a much, much higher level of competition in his fights.
Yeah, well, I remember him from Show Fight 20. It's back in 2012, he fought Rolly Delgado. Rolly Delgado was a UFC veteran. And then he fought John Gunderson, who's actually also a UFC veteran. And then he got on the Ultimate Fighter. And since then, he's been fighting at least guys at this level, right? They've thrown him to a couple of difficult spots. He's persevered. His losses, Chas Skelly, grappler, Davi Ramos, ADCC competitor, very good grappler, and Alexander Hernandez, kind of a generalist, but at his best can do everything well. Claudio Puelles, meanwhile, again, he's another one of these guys that's scraping up wins, but looks awful. His debut, which is, I thought it was the finals of Ultimate Fighter. He takes on Martin Bravo. He gets knocked out. Looks terrible. His fight against Felipe Silva, I watched it at your place, your old basement apartment in Toronto, and just the most frustrating thing of all time. He gets 10-8'd in both of the first 2 rounds. He looks awful. He's the worst guy in the roster. Dana is going to cut this man, and he rolls into a knee bar with like a couple minutes left in the fight, and Felipe Silva either bet against himself. I don't know. Just tap. Most coward thing I've ever seen. Taps. Terrible. But that's a terrible performance where he squeaks out a win over a guy who's no longer with the promotion. Fair. Marcos Mariano. That was Anderson Silva's buddy. Remember him? They brought him in to lose to Lando Venata and then thought, geez, who's the worst guy we can possibly give you? It was Puelles. When he beat him by decision. Not a good look. And then that Jordan Leavitt's fight. Go back and watch it. So the first round, he looks terrible. He loses. Jordan Leavitt outstrikes him 12-3, takes him down. It's the second and the third round. Leavitt's just gasses out. Why? Because he's a one-dimensional jiu-jitsu guy who's very young, who has no experience in this sport. Those are the kind that's going to catch up to you. Chris Gruetzemacher is a 20-fight veteran who has cardio for days, who's not going anywhere. That is the complete opposite of Leavitt. And I think he's just going to march down Puelles, put a beating on him. I hope he knocks him out, but I could see him just beating on him for 15 full minutes. So it's minus 110 both sides. Puelles' path to victory is got to get the fight to the ground. Get the fight to the ground and use your grappling. You stand up, whole lot of trouble. If you take him down, you grapple with him, you could have some success. But even if that's the path, Grits is going to keep working. He's going to keep going. You're going to have to out-grapple him for the entire fight, or he's going to have his moments. And I think he's going to have his moments. So give me a Chris Gruetzemacher, but you're right. Both guys, not the most trustworthy. This thing could theoretically go anyway, but it's minus 110. You got to have a pony on one side or the other. So we're going to go with Gruetzemacher.
I mean, in Gruetzemacher's defense, I mean, Alexander Hernandez, a legitimately good prospect.
Yeah.
Davi Ram, it took until round three. With a guy like Davi Ramos to get the finish. Chaz Skelly, rear naked choke round 2. Still round 2. It's like, I don't think Puelles' grappling is on the level of either one of those guys. And his ability to get it to the mat is definitely not on Chaz Skelly's level in terms of, the collegiate wrestling background that Chaz Skelly has. What has Chaz Skelly been up to recently?
He had a fight actually just pulled out the other day. So
he's supposed to fight Trezano.
He was supposed to fight Trezano, and then he pulled out.
He's fighting Mark Striegel. Remember that guy?
Yeah, of course.
The
He's
Striegler.
like the Southeast Asian, top prospect, and then just never really did pan out. But
well, he hasn't really had too many. I mean, he took on Saeed Nurmagomedov in the UFC, and that's been his only fight. So, I mean, tough first time on the show. But yeah, what was I going to say there? Yeah, Striegel is taking on Chaz Skelly next time. That's not until February, so I'm sure it'll probably be canceled long before that. So there's no point in us talking about it right now. Moving on down, we got Azamat Murzakanov taking on Jared Vanderaa. Minus 225 can be had for Azamat Murzakanov, and a plus 175 is the comeback on Jared Vanderaa. I think this is I think Murzakanov, definitely not a quote unquote prospect, 35 years old. I think he looks very, very skilled. His fight on the Contender Series, rewatched that this morning, and man, it was vicious once he got the fight. When he landed the kill shot, he went in and absolutely took care of business against Mateus Scheifele. He was like a 5-1 favorite there. He was supposed to win, and he came through. Good on him. The big problem here, though, is he's supposed to take on Marcin Prachnio. He's supposed to take on Philippe Lins, and both of those fights were supposed to be taking place at 205 pounds. Clearly, he wants to probably get onto a card before the end of the year, make some cheddar. Cheddar makes it better, pay off some Christmas bills or whatever the hell you're doing out in, where is he from? Nalchik, Russia. He's got bills to pay out in Nalchik. He's 205 pounds. He fought on the Contender Series at 205 pounds. Jared Vanderaa, if we're going skill for skill here, Azamat's got him covered all day. Problem is, he's probably going to be giving up a good 40 pounds here to Jared Vanderaa, who comes in at the heavyweight limit. So I am very, very, very nervous about Azamat here. I think this is going to be one of those ones too. It's like when the casual eyes or some people who don't dig too deeply into this, when they actually see these guys standing next to each other on the scales, I think this is going to become even tighter and tighter because Jared Vanderaa is a true heavyweight in terms of size. And Murzakanov, 5'10", 71-inch reach, 205 pounds. Like, he's probably got like a middleweight frame if we're being completely honest with you. So I think it's a tough spot for him. I think he's super talented. He's got a lot more skills than Jared Vanderaa, but size matters in MMA, so it makes me a little bit nervous. So I'll lean towards the underdog here. Don't love it, but I think the size will be a big problem for Azamat here. What about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. I think it's definitely gonna pose him problems. Like, how could it not? He's given up like 8 inches in the reach department. He's given up an easy 40 pounds. Oh, we'll see when they eventually hit the scales. But yeah, I would say there's a lot of things that are going against him. But I mean, why would you accept a fight like this? Why would they offer
It's
you a
weird,
couple
yeah.
205ers and then say you want to fight a heavyweight and you'd accept it? Like, it's a weird fight to come together. But I think it's because Azamat, he don't care. He'll take anything. When you look at his record, he shows a notable win over Andre Muniz, who's a badass, knocks him out in 50 seconds. But let's talk about this Brave 29, right? He fights Guto Innocent. Well, Guto Innocent weighs 250. In fact, he just fought a couple weeks ago. He weighed in at 262. That's an open weight fight. Yeah, and it's a one-night tournament because he fights Mohammed Fakhdardine right afterward. I did not swear there. Fakhdardine was his last name. So he fights in a one-night open weight tournament. The guy just did not care. And then he gets on the Contender Series where he absolutely kills Mateusz Sheffel. So he looked decent. He looked like a good prospect. And the thing with Russia is this guy's actually just not lying. He's actually just being honest. I'm 35 years old. Normally, they'd say, I'm 28 years old.
29
oh,
with a bald spot
prospect.
and, and a bad back.
How many times have we seen that, Paul? A zillion times. So I'm going to say, you know what, he is 35 years old, sure, but he hasn't taken a whole lot of damage. He's only got 10 career fights under his belt. He clearly doesn't mind fighting up at heavyweight. When you see his striking style, I think him and Vandera could be competitive striking. I do believe that could be the case because Vandera's got the reach advantage. He's a bigger guy, and I'll give him credit. He moves well for a big man. You saw that in the Justin Toffa fight. He had good volume, good cardio, decent footwork. He's not completely a fish out of water. Where he is a fish out of water is on the ground. He seemingly can't stuff a takedown. And when Spivak got him down, it was easy money. Sure. And when Romanov got him down, it was easy money. And that's what people aren't seeing with Murkanov. He can wrestle. And he's from K Dojo Warrior Tribe, which has some of the scariest Russian prospects that first came over to America.
But when you're wrestling and you're giving up 40 pounds, that's exhausting. Exhausting and very difficult. Right. Very difficult to muscle people around. Like we see this tale over and over with guys trying to jump up weight class with a wrestling base, and it's just bad business, especially at minus 225.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, he shows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of his 10 wins are by first round finish. Only been to decision twice. None of that looks good. I agree. And if you want to spam bet all the underdogs, another good shot here. And if you want to talk about odds, I think that the value side is Vandera. But I think I'm going to take Mirzakana. I know it sounds crazy in the weight and this and that. His camp would know. He's 35. He's undefeated. This is his UFC debut. You don't just put yourself in a bad position. You don't just take a heavyweight fight. They would have looked at Jared and said, this guy is shit. Yeah, we will take this fight. Yeah. And
we're
that's
training
why
with a better guy
in
the room on a daily basis who's around his size.
Yeah. So and also this is weird, right? He's weighed in all of his fights at 205, other than the open weight fight, which he never stepped on the scale because it really wouldn't have mattered. But Fight Metric has him listed as 225. Like, where did they get to 225 from? Like, how do we even know what he's going to weigh in at? I don't know. But I just got a feeling that they know what they're doing. And with Vandera, we're not betting him like, this guy's good. We're betting him because this guy's big. That's not enough for me. It's not enough for me. Fair. So I got to go with the Russia.
All right. Alex Morono takes on Mickey Gall, minus 220 Morono, plus 180 Gall. Who you got here?
Well, this is another one that's going to be tightly contested, I think. And I don't know. I think he can make a good debate for both sides. Myself personally, I find myself kind of jumping around back and forth. I think what it comes down to is Mickey Gall. It comes down to Mickey Gall and the improvements that he's made because they threw him to the wolves a little bit early. I mean, I know he had the whole, he's fighting the CM Punks and the Mike Jacksons of the world, but his losses are to Randy Brown, who's doing really well in the division. Diego Sanchez, come on, the guy was the Ultimate Fighter 1 winner. He's got 40 pro fights. Like, kind of fight is this for a guy who's 5-1? Doesn't make any sense. And then Mike Perry, kind of a strange one. But again, I think it goes back to he's 6-2. Like, he's got no experience under his belt, and yet they're giving him these tough fights every time out. So I look at the Jordan Williams fight. I bet him as the underdog there. Was he the underdog? Yeah, he's a plus 145 underdog. Bet him as the underdog, pure narrative. Pure narrative was that Mickey Gall is a decent grappler. We know he's a BJJ Brown belt. I don't think he's got his black belt yet, but a BJJ Brown belt. His striking's improved. It looked good against Mike Perry early till he tired. It looked good against Diego Sanchez early till he got tired. Cardio seems to be an issue for him, but if he shores up the cardio and he can take the fight down consistently, he'll be a problem. And sure enough, he just takes Jordan Williams down. He outstruck him standing. He got him down. He submitted him with a rear naked choke, flawless victory. Only one thing was a first round finish. So I still uncertain if this guy can fight 2 or 3 rounds. Alex Morono, meanwhile, can definitely fight 2 or 3 rounds. Even when he gets tired, he keeps chucking. The problem is that he's super sloppy. And whereas that he's also a BJJ black belt, he's not really all that good off his back, and his takedown defense is a little bit suspect. So I think Gall could have success early in the fight, taking him down, controlling him, trying to work him over a little bit. I think Gall could have success early in the fight standing, whereas this guy's going to chuck loopy bombs. He's going to be longer, more linear, better jab, straight right hand down the middle. It's the longer the fight progresses that's a problem. Does Mickey Gall finish Alex Morono? I don't think so. I don't think he's got the punching power to knock him out. I don't think he's got the submission game to submit him. You'd have to beat him for 15 minutes, which is just way easier said than done because it's going to get greasy and it's going to go into deeper waters. Morono's been into greasy, deep waters, and he's been okay. And Mickey Gall tends to falter when it gets to that point. So just what way does this go? The narrative is if Gall shored up his takedown, not his takedown defense, but his cardio, he'd be okay. It's just looking at the line, right? You got a plus 180 on Mickey Gall. He just scored for me as an underdog. I do think he's making improvements. I think he's just taking on some tough spots. But every time he loses one of these tough spots, he gets the experience from it. He improves a little bit. Morono, meanwhile, he's been in tough spots. He's been in good spots, but he's Alex Morono. He's the same version of himself every time out. I think if you're smart, if you're at home right now and you're looking for some advice, I think the smart move would probably take Alex Morono. I don't always take the smart move. And for that reason, I think that Mickey Gall's another one of these live underdogs. He's just got to be able to continue it for 2 of the 3 rounds. Even if he can just win the first 2, he himself is not likely going to get finished by Alex Morono in the 3rd. So this really comes down to cardio. Morono has the better cardio. Gall's got, I believe, the slightly, I wouldn't even say better skill. You could go back and forth on this one for sure. I do get the gut impression, though, that Mickey Gall pulls it through. So I will very tentatively go with Mickey Gall. Can't say I love it, but it's another underdog shot.
Mickey was training with Matt Brown leading up to his last fight. I don't know. I've just kind of been going through his Instagram as you were talking there. And it doesn't really look... I know that Matt Brown was obviously supposed to be on this card, and the fight was obviously pulled off because he tested positive for COVID as of literally a week ago. Doesn't really seem like they've been in the gym together, so I'm not really sure, where each one of these guys, because I think that was probably a good little, one guy probably has to work on his grappling and the other guy has to work on his stand-up. I thought that was a nice little matchup between the two of them, a nice little training partner for these guys. I can't really get it. I have no idea who the guys that Mickey Gall is posting with leading up to this fight. So I don't know.
I'll give you one thing about Gall though. So when he started out, he was at Gracie, it was the Gracie Academy in New Jersey. And then he left the Gracie gym in New Jersey and went to Miller Brothers with Dan and Jim Miller in New Jersey. Then he left there and he went to TriStar in Montreal.
Back in Jersey.
And then he left there and went to American Top Team. And then he left there. He was a gym jump. He was a gym jumping bitch. He wasn't making any drastic improvements. But again, you see him, he's 29 now. He seems to be like a lot more in his skin. There used to be a thing where they wanted to call out every time. So he beat Sage Northcutt and he called out Dan Hardy. It was like, get out of here, man. I don't like this guy, but I'll give him his dues. He goes out, he accepts fights, he makes improvements. I think he's anchored down now. And I actually just saw he just got awarded his black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under David Adif, who is a stud. So his jiu-jitsu is solid. It's tight. It's good. His cardio is going to be an issue. I'm hoping he shorted up. But yeah, I mean, listen, a lot of guys don't like betting on narratives. This is strictly narrative. So I don't know. Maybe if you're going to pass, if your book doesn't allow anything, they don't take 15 fight parlays. They take 12s, right?
This is
if
one
you
that
don't
you
even
leave
want
off.
to yeah, right. This is a pass. You're going to pass on this. I wouldn't call it a cranberry sauce fight because I'm interested in it. I am in, but I don't know. I love it from a betting perspective.
Nah, Vlismas versus Martin is the cranberry sauce fight. Let's call a spade a spade. I know cranberry sauce when I see it. And finally, we got Louis Smolka taking on Vince Morales, minus 145 Smolka, plus 125 Morales. The question with Smolka is, can he keep the pace? That's always kind of been the problem with him, is the pace is super, super high. People love him for DraftKings. But usually when you get into round 2, he starts to fall off of a cliff. He sets a pace that he typically really can't keep. Vince Morales, I have not been all that impressed with along the way. It showed that he wasn't able to defend leg kicks when he took on Chris Gutierrez. I don't know. I feel like has Smolka turned the corner? I know this is all narrative stuff, but has he finally turned the corner here? Has he gotten the drinking and everything like that worked out? It looks like he's a family man when I go through his Instagram now. See a lot of smiles, birthday cakes, that type of thing. Hopefully he's got it together because I think he's a pretty talented guy. The grappling is super, super slick. I'm going to go with Smolka here. Hopefully, you can get the fight to the mat and style from top. On the feet, I think it's obviously going to be super, super competitive. And Smolka doesn't exactly have any sort of dynamic power on the feet that is going to cause Vince Morales any sort of problems. So definitely have to get it to the mat, but Smolka's the pick for me. What about you?
Yeah, same boat. I'm gonna go with Louis Smolka. And you look at Smolka's last fight against what was his name? Michel Quinones, Jose Alberto Quinones. Dude, he looked awesome. I thought he looked really good. His striking looked good. His wrestling, not great. It's never been great, but I mean, he's really good at capitalizing on bad scrambles. So when Quinones would shoot a bad takedown, he'd be able to capitalize, take him down. And when he's on the ground, you're right. This dude floats. He's got excellent hips. Him at his best would probably be, geez, it's going back a while now, but that Ben Nguyen fight, like he just floated on him effortlessly and beat his face in. It was solid work. Losses, Brandon Moreno. Oh, shit, he's the current champion. Ray Borg. Oh, he was the title challenger. Tim Elliott. Oh, he's a title challenger. Matheus Nicolau. Oh, he's the top 5 guy in this division. Matt Schnell. He was drinking. He had a bad drinking problem at the time. Casey Kinney. He's the top guy in the division. So you can make excuses that he loses to pretty much elite level competitors. And when he's sober and he's clean living, he's got legitimate talent. How he matches up against Vince Morales, striking's kind of even. It's kind of par. Like I would give slight volume advantage to Smolka. Smolka has this, we have this perception of him that he's tall with a long reach, but he's only got a 68-inch reach.
So it's been the exact same as Vince, even though he's...
Well, I think they got him given up 2 inches in the reach department, despite being
Tapology, they got half an inch, 68.5 for Smolka,
Tapology
68.
is definitely wrong. Yeah,
Tapology is definitely wrong. Oh, shots fired at Tapology.
Sure. I love
who
Tapology.
Do you think has the most
credible height and reaches?
What, you think it's UFC stats? 68.
Yeah, for sure.
70.
For sure it's UFC
okay,
stats.
so Vince...
UFC stats, they take the direct numbers from the UFC, and the UFC is the one that's measuring it. Tapology allows you to write in your own information. So any fighter can go in and take care of their own...
Why would Morales shortchange his own reach on his own account?
Because how does he even know what his reach is? Did he sit in his living room with a tape measure?
He should have wrote in, rather than write in 68, write in 69 for the lulz.
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
but at the same time, right? What kind of guy who's 5'6" would say he's 5'6" and wouldn't say he's 5'7" or 5'8", right? It's like a confidence thing. I don't know what it is. I really don't. Smolka's always had a short reach. Always had a short reach. We have this idea that he's got a long reach because he's a tall, lanky guy, but he has a short ass reach. Morales, meanwhile, is a slightly shorter guy, has a couple inches. Doesn't matter. What I'm thinking is the striking is probably going to be even. It's probably going to be par. Maybe slight power advantage goes to Morales. Slight better jab goes towards Louis Smolka. The ground game is the key here. Smolka gets this fight to the ground, he's going to win it. But his wrestling's not all that good. And in fact, I don't really think it's good enough to take down Vince Morales. So you got a tight, greasy fight here. If for whatever reason hit the ground, it would be Smolka. So that's a advantage. And as far as the striking being close and competitive, I just don't really like Vince Morales all that much. Whereas Smolka, you make as, oh, geez, Casey Kinney, yeah, dope. Schnell, okay, yeah, sure. The Nicolaus and the Tim Elliots and the Ray Borgs and the Brendan Morenos and even headlining a card in Ireland against Paddy Holohan, that's all good stuff. Vince Morales, meanwhile, has fought pretty much bottom of the barrel. Like Draco Rodriguez is terrible. I believe he's released from the promotion now. And it's not a very good fight. Chris Gutierrez is good, and he just chewed right through him. The Benito Lopez fight is close, but again, there's just not enough urgency out of him. The Hobby fight was terrible. The Song Yadong fight, he got chewed up. It's a lot like he's just a warm body. He's just a warm body in there. He'll allow you to lead the dance, and he'll try to keep up with you. Pace is similar. I just feel like Smolka's going to win it outright in the end. So if you're looking for another fight to pass on, this might be it. But I do think that Louis Smolka is the rightful favorite, and I do think this is a spot where the favorite does win.
All right. Just a little bit of housekeeping here. One, did you see Bryce Mitchell's rap or mixtape?
I did not see it. I heard, did not hear it, but I just saw something that was like, oh, Bryce Mitchell stakes claim for best rapper in the UFC. I didn't know anybody was. Brian Kelleher apparently believes he's the best rapper in the UFC. rap's not really my thing. Shit rap is definitely not my thing. So I haven't heard it, but my assumption is that it's a shit rap song. So yeah, Kevin Casey's the best rapper in MMA. We all know that.
It's definitely not Tyron Woodley. I think
Tyron
Bryce.
Woodley's the worst rapper in MMA.
I think Bryce is getting a lot of credit because he's better than Woodley. But if anybody actually wants to look it up, then you should look at it afterwards. Cole Beasley, the slot receiver for the Buffalo. No. Slot receiver for my Buffalo Bills. He plays for the Bills now. He used to play for the Cowboys. Amazing rapper.
Is he actually?
Like, I'll send you the link and you can check this out after the show. Cole Beasley is like the GOAT. Amazing, like shockingly good. I would never have expected it, but very excellent rapper.
I just brought up Bryce Mitchell rap song. It's called Darkensaw.
Darkensaw. I listen. You know what? The lyrics are actually pretty good. I don't know if it's
good for him.
Like, man. The lyrics are actually. It's very MMA related. A lot of the references, it would work a lot better if you're an MMA fan. I'm sure someone who's not an MMA fan probably looks at it and they go like, what the hell is this? Like, it's just bad rap. But I thought he did a good job on the actual writing of it. Like, listening to the words, I was like, that's pretty creative. I like what he did there. I'm no expert on the matter either. But I think his voice is just... he just doesn't have it, Like, you can tell it's Bryce Mitchell rapping, It's not like, oh, this guy's just such a good rapper that all of a sudden, like, that southern twang has disappeared. No, it's like you can tell you know who's talking when it's Bryce Mitchell rapping.
I just skimmed through it, listened to it a little bit. It sounds like 9 guys I got on my Facebook who do the same thing, old Spotify. I actually booked a rapper for an MMA fight that one time, and the commission called it off.
Oh, shit.
I know. The guy's name is TG Savage. Also goes by, well, I don't want to say TG Savage, Terry Grant. He's got a triple X tattoo behind his neck. Like, who thought that would be a good idea? I don't know. I don't know if you want to hear the story or not, but I don't know. Rap and MMA. Oh, okay. So
sorry, I was just this guy's the reason why it seems like I'm not paying attention. I was pasting this link to you. No, not listening to it. Just sending you the Cole Beasley for afterwards. You got to listen to it. He's
okay,
dope.
so I'm matchmaking a amateur card one time, right? Mm-hmm. And basically, the UFC gym just opens up in Mississauga. It's a UFC gym, right? And they're like, oh, you guys can come here. You can do your weigh-ins here. You can do anything you want here, promotional stuff. We're bringing in Michael Bisping for some big grand opening. So we're like, you know what? Sweet. We'll do our weigh-ins over this UFC gym, sure. So I drop in a few times. I meet this guy, Terry Grant. Mind you, his name is Brian Burbage. Bubanich. His name is not Terry Grant, right? So I see him hitting the bag. He's got a triple X tattoo across his neck, right? That in itself, it's like, oh my God, who would think that's a good idea? But all the same, I talked to him. Yeah, he'd like to have a fight, but he's never trained. This is his first time walking into a gym, and he can't hit the punching bag. He doesn't know how to grapple. He's starting absolutely at ground zero, cannot fight. Well, I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll try to find someone who's also at ground zero who cannot fight. Can't. End up fighting a guy named Justin Condi, who's 1-3 as an amateur, but he's a real good kickboxer. He's actually currently 3-0 as a professional MMA fighter now as well, but he was 1-3 as an amateur at the time. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to put this fight together. We'll go, Bryan versus Justin Condi. So the whole time he's like, yeah, man, I'm training. I'm pumped up. Good to go. Perfect. Come weigh-in day. He walks in. Brian Beauchamp, who's a referee. He's like a commission guy in Ontario. He's also a 11-time BJJ world champion. Mostly competes in like the seniors division, but that's still pretty dope as far as I'm concerned. Black belt in judo as well. He sees this guy hitting on the bag, and he's like, who is that? I'm like, oh, this is this Brian Burbage. And he's like, yeah, that guy's not fighting on the card. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, this guy's walking liability, not fighting on the card. So he calls over one of his students who's a purple belt, and he's like, you grapple him real quick. Let me see if, and the guy sandbags to try to make Brian look good, but doesn't. Beauchamp's like, nah, this guy's off the card. So he allows some dude, Bobby Poulter, who's 0-0, never fought before. He allows that guy to just step in, and ends up being the greatest amateur fight ever. And this Terry guy ends up just vanishing off the map, ends up like going to jail. I end up seeing like changes his name from Brian to Terry Grant. And he's just like fired. Check him out. If you punch into YouTube, Terry Grant, Terry Burberry, Terry Springer, Terry Potter, pretty much anything that can be turned into Terry. That's his whole thing. And like the production value is legit, but they're just rappers from Sault Ste. Marie. They're not getting any further in life. They rap on the side for fun. So I can't say that Bryce Minchell or Brian Kelleher or any of these guys are any better than some random guy from Sault Ste. Marie. They're just not good rappers for the most part. But I will admit, if you were
haven't
going to
even
have
listened to him, how do you know? Maybe
Well, I
maybe
mean-
Darkensaw is the greatest hit you've ever heard.
I just skimmed through over it in my headphones. And what I would say is if someone was like, I'm a good rapper. No, I'm a good rapper. Listen, what does it come down to? What makes a good song? Is it views? No, because then you got guys like Tekashi 6ix9ine. Well, then they're the best rappers, right? They get the most views, even though it's trash, even though he'll tell you it's trash. Who's that? Little Yachty or something? I don't know. Trash. It's all trash. Views don't mean anything. You're saying lyrically sound? Okay. It's a rap battle. That's the only way to determine who the best rappers. Freestyle. You can come up with that shit at the top of your head. That's impressive. If you can sit down with a beat and you got a script in front of you, how many times did he read it? 100 times? You know, like what was the best read? Freestyle rap. That's the only way to determine what's up. So the UFC should capitalize on this and have like an 8 Mile style rap battle.
I don't see why they wouldn't. I think they should. I'm 100% on board. That seems like something. That seems like a Who Wants to Be the Best Rap. That seems like the content for Fight Pass. Make a reality TV show where who is the best UFC rapper, and maybe they can fight in between. Who knows? All right. I imagine you're gonna have a Bellator preview up on the CJ Saftic YouTube page, and if you haven't checked out his Harold Howard thing, I didn't know that like everything went so horrible. Like I watched your video. I didn't know that everything had went so horribly wrong for Harold Howard. Like I'm not surprised that it went horribly wrong, but I didn't know I didn't know that is what happened to him after he disappeared from the UFC. So it's kind of sad, but it seems like he's probably on the right track because he's out of the public limelight, which is good. And back in Niagara, just teaching, I guess. Who knows? But he's not in jail, so that's good times. But yeah, definitely that was a cool thing that you and J-Rock did. So you should go check that out on CJ Saftic's, or Cody, our main man's YouTube channel for some good times. And I guess we're all out of time, but before we go, hit him with the PRP.
All right, parlays this week are pretty much dead in the water because there's so many underdogs. But if we keep it tight and precise, we'll do good. Props will do good. You just bet these guys straight up, you'll do good. But let's go with the PRP. We're going to go with Aldo, dog number 1. Brad Riddell, dog number 2. Leo Santos, Jamahal Hill, dog number 3. Chris Curtis, dog number 4. Brian Barbarena, I guess. Maki Pitolo, dog number 6. Jeremiah Wells, dog number 7.
Jeez.
Manel Kape, Cheyenne Vlismas, Alonzo Menifield, Chris Gruetzemacher is even money, Azamat Murzaganov, and Mickey Gall is dog number 8, and then Louis Smolka. So we have 15 fights. I'm thinking 8 of them are underdogs. That's little more than half the card. Even if it's 7 of them, it's a little less than half the card. All I'm saying is dogs will be barking. The longer you extend these parlays, the more you're opening yourself to someone who's shitting in the apple pie. Unless we can have the right, the right combination, which is what we're going for. If we can hit the first line, we can hit the first 2 lines, we're going to be good. We can hit one of these zones with these plus money, we're going to be good. But we talked about, was it 2 UFC cards ago? No, it was the last UFC card, I think. You could have just taken all the underdogs. If you just bet all of the underdogs and half of them win because you're getting plus money, you're good.
Come out ahead.
If a Chris Curtis hits at a plus 280, well, you can afford to lose 2 or 3 favorites because of that plus money. It's all about the plus.
Mm-hmm.
And on this card in particular, plus 280 on him, plus 140 on Hill seems pretty good. Plus 140 on Maki Pitolo, plus 155 on Jeremiah Wells. You talked about plus 55 for that knockout prop. That's all crazy to me.
Yep.
If you are a Jared Vanderaa guy, and I wouldn't write it out, plus 175, that's a great price. Mickey Gall, if you're buying into the narrative as I am, plus 180, that's a great price. There's money to be made. It's that
I agree.
I don't know that we're going 12 for 12 or 15 for 15.
No, and a lot
we
of
will
these
do our damnness.
And a lot of these underdogs will, they're going to lose. Like you're not gonna sweep all of them. You're probably not gonna sweep all of them, but But yeah, it gives you a lot more outs when Chris Curtis comes through at plus 280. It's as exactly how you said. It's like, well, the next two bets, like even if I guess Curtis is way further. But even if like Hill and Riddell didn't come through, well, you're probably still ahead if you're sizing your bets correctly.
Yeah, that is exactly
That
it.
is it.
And then you're right, man. We got a full Bellator card as well. So I think the plan would be take some of these Bellator favorites and mix it with some of your favorite underdogs from the UFC card. But just to fire it off real quickly, because I know we're probably running overtime.
Nah, we're never over time.
Geez, Sergio Pettis has a plus 155 underdogs live, man. He's been in way different fights since he went to Bellator. His wrestling's on point. He looked crisp against Juan Archuleta. He's live. Where you pass on it altogether, it doesn't matter. Jeremy Kennedy should have the grappling advantage. He should be able to apply it, and he's another underdog. Jared Scoggins, this is where I like it. Jared Scoggins is Justin Scoggins' brother. He's 10-1. He's a very mobile fighter, and he actually got a win over Cody Durden a few fights back where he stuffed all of the takedowns. Josh Hill is as one-dimensional gets. He just tries to press you up against the cage. Like, he's worked on his striking. He's worked on these things, but he's got no X factor to his game. I think Scoggins is going to dance around him and take him. Eblin's a minus 1,000 favorite. Like, he's obviously going to walk through a huck body. We all know that. This Kyle Gruetzemacher, I think he gets the win over Oliver Emkamp. And then beyond that, Alexander Shbili, he's a minus 550 favorite. Bobby King just won a split decision over Nick Newell, who has one hand, I guess I should say. Everybody likes Mike Hamill, but Achilles Moda should have his numbers. Spike Carlisle is going to be live in this spot against Dan Moret. There's some fun fights there for sure. So I think you take the 2 or 3 big favorites, mix it up with a couple underdogs. We'll release, obviously, plays. I'm going to do a show for tomorrow. We're going to release the plays for Friday. And then, yeah, I always say, if you love Bellator, let's hit it. If you are just so-so with Bellator, let's make a little bit of money, and you can just parlay those winnings over to the UFC card. So, you know what? I always feel good about things. I'm an optimistic guy. It's like, I like these spots. I like these fights. It's going to be entertaining, but we want to hit the winners. But, yeah, man, I'm excited to get at it. And I think we've got a lot of choices this week. The main thing is going to be smart. Don't overextend yourself. No. And I think we're going to come out on the right side of it.
3 cards until the end of the year. Make some money for, your holiday festivities, whatever the hell you get up to. And then we're off for a month. So, yeah, get in while the getting's good. And as we were saying, lots of underdog opportunities to be had this week. So if you have a good card, like money, there is money to be made, especially on this UFC card, I think, this week. So that is it for us this week. Want to thank Cody on the line, as always, and producer Matt behind the scenes. For both of those guys, I am Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.